For this morning's project, I'm going to raise the neckline of this cool top I have. See, it plunges down quite low, even though it's a size small. So for comparison for later, I have the shoulder seams right at the plastic seams on both sides. And you see it plunges down to where the dialing knob is. What I plan to do is I have some really soft lacy elastic. See, it's pretty lightweight. It's not super thick, and it's super stretchy. What I plan to do is stretch it a little bit and just tack it underneath the neckline. And normally I would just machine sew it, but I want to retain the way the neckline looks, so I'm probably just going to stretch and hand tack it. I have my top off the little model. Now, when I stretch out the neckline, this was a V-neck, but when I stretch it out, get rid of that V, see, it's real long. So what I'm going to do is with my very stretchy elastic, I'm going to have it go one length and maybe 2/3 back. Okay, so I'm going to tack this starting in the back middle. We turn it around. Now in this case, I want the elastic, since it's pretty, I want it to peek out of the top a little bit. So I'm going to just tack this right here. I'm going to have it overlap probably 1/4 inch in the back. So I'm going to start right about there. Now whenever you do a sewing project, make sure you count any stick pins in case you have pets or kids in the house. You can make sure you get them all back later on. So I have it tacked in the back middle. Now I'm going to loop this around, loop my elastic around, and tack this one too, in the same space actually. I'll just pull up my stick pin. Now I have it going through both pieces of elastic and the top, the neckline of the top. And now I'm going to, what I'm doing now is trying to make sure when I tack it, the stretch is even all the way around. So I have it tacked. So I'm making a loop with the elastic and making sure that loop, hold the middle, let the elastic fall naturally. Hold the middle of it. And do the same thing with your top. So there's the middle of my elastic, there's the middle of my top. Put it over here and tack it. That way I don't have one side tighter than the other. And it's not going to be scientifically exact, but you get the idea. I want the tension to be more natural. And you can see when I let go, they both fall pretty evenly. So now I can work with each side, pull this a little bit to stretch it out. Try to walk your fingers in to the middle of the side, tack. Ouch, stab myself. And now I have this one side tacked in the middle, and I can just, each section, just pull taut a little bit and tack. This side here and tack. And if you don't want the elastic to stick up, you would just tack it a little lower, right? So the top of the elastic's at the top of the neckline. I'm going to do the same thing here. Hold the middle of the front, the middle of the back, pull it till the ends meet. Take your fingers while keeping it pulled walk it in to about the middle and tack. This is quite a large neckline. Normally it wouldn't be so hard. That seems like too much to me, but I'm going to go ahead and go with it. Okay. Grab the middle there. Tack. You could even be creative if you need little extra hands, use binder clips or what have you. Okay, last section. I'm going to tack it. So now, I have my elastic all tacked up. Okay, I have a needle and thread, and the thread's contrasting so you can see what I'm doing. I'm basically going to start at the back where my needles are. I'm just going to base it. We're going to remove this, so don't worry about how it looks at all. I'm just going to very, very loosely put a real loose base stitch. I'm going to pull gently to make sure I get rid of the gaps as I do each stitch, about maybe 1.5 inches apart, inch and a half. And look at each stitch, I'm making like a vertical stitch. And like I said, you don't even need this step, but if I want to put it back on my mannequin to see where the neckline falls now. Because if it's not sufficient or if it's too tight, I can change it. So you see I have, well, I'll show you. When I matched the seam up with the plastic like before, it does not, it was down like to here, and now it naturally falls a lot higher. Okay, I have my top inside out and the neckline stretched over one of those little wood folding tables. So I'm going to start at the back, and remember at the back I have my lace overlapped. So the goal technically, just to be safe, is to use thread that matches your exterior neckline in case you poke through accidentally. But in this case, since it's the back and my thread matches, I'm not gonna worry about. I'm just gonna go all the way through. And I'm just going to, like right next to the thread, go back. So I'm just going to tack it like probably every 1/4 inch. I'm going to do a couple right here because I want to reinforce the beginning. So you're not even going to be able to see it because I'm pretty much just going right back in almost the same hole. We do a few of these to get us started so we have a strong base. See, I'm just going through the material and both pieces of elastic, putting it right back in. I'm going to keep doing that until my overlap is done. I can still feel it's thicker here. Probably one more right about here. Now I'm going to continue on. Now, you see I have my base stitch, just leave it. I'm going to stitch this so just my lace is coming out of the top, just a little bit. So I could actually, probably going to have it, the needle come out right about there. Or actually, I can just match. I'll go down to where there's already a stitch line there from the manufacturer. Okay, so I've tacked it there. Okay, I've arrived at the front. And since it has a different color, I'm using the same color stitch that the manufacturer used. I'm using the same color thread. I'm going to come up from the back, right on that same manufacturer stitch line, or just very close. Now, if your top is a solid color or multicolored and you don't mind your stitch showing, after you tack it with a contrasting thread and check it out on yourself or on a mannequin, you can just machine stitch it. So I'm going back down, maybe like 1/8 of an inch where I came up. I'm just piggybacking on the manufacturer's stitch line. Now, when I get down to this V, see how there's a little seam there to make that V? I might go a little closer for the stitches, might keep them a little tighter. That way my elastic's forced to follow that neckline a little stronger. So I'm I have it stretched so it's not really a corner. So I'm down at the center of the V. Just going to keep going. Re-entered the black area. And I'm about out of thread, so I'm going to tie it off. And now from here on, going back to the center back right here, I'm basically home free because in the back, my thread and material are the exact same color, so I don't have to be so meticulous and make sure I come right up on the manufacturer's stitch line. At home base, I'm finishing up. I'm going to make my ending slip stitches right where my elastic overlaps, just to reinforce it so it doesn't come up after repeated washings. Just making a bunch of slip stitches to make sure this does not come undone. So basically what I did is I pinned on my elastic so I could make sure it was evenly distributed. The stretchiness was evenly distributed. Then I tacked it to make it more manageable when I'm sewing it. And then I used the same color thread and tacked about every 1/4 inch coming right up all along the manufacturer's thread. I still have my tacking in there, which I'll remove. Let's hang it up and see how our finished product looks. Here's our new neckline. I think it's fabulous. Now I have a top that I wasn't wearing because I kept having to hike it up. My finished product from afar so you can see the whole top. The good thing about tightening the neckline versus just pulling the shoulder up and cinching it is it does not distort the entire fit or the flow of the garment. I hope that's helpful. Thank you.